I'm what many would call a skeptic on the UFO UAP subject. Like many without regard to their overall point of view, I would like to get to the bottom of the issue. I remember going to a summer camp near the end of the 1960s and buying a UFO magazine to read on the bus trip. Since then, year after year, nothing is ever resolved. Later in life, I conducted government and nonprofit studies. Applying those concepts in that field, it is obvious that the current governmental mechanism and structures work against this resolution. Any possible explanations or analyses are always locked up in the Defense Department or intelligence operations, which have their black budget vehicles and radar and optical fake target generators, which they want to conceal, as well as who knows what. In order to solve a problem, a mechanism is needed. Some mechanisms are designed to hide things. Other mechanisms are designed to achieve transparency. An example of a mechanism for transparency is the Freedom of Information Act. Although being far from perfect, it has brought light on many government activities. Then there are mechanisms designed to hide things while making the public think they are achieving transparency. The original Project Blue Book was created by the Air Force in order to investigate sightings and interaction of alleged alien activity by civilians as well as the military. There was a need to reassure civilians that something was going to be done to look into the situation, as well as trying to determine if some of the unexplained incidents might be Soviet incursions. Then there are the plausible, non-stated, more conspiratorial reasons for its existence. The Pentagon and intelligence agencies had many black budget and other secret projects whose products, if detected, required a way to explain them as something else. If one wants to hide something, the best way is to control the investigation into it. The Roswell incident is a perfect example of a shell game. Was it a crashed alien spacecraft? Or a secret project monitoring Soviet nuclear tests called Project Mogul? Or a weather research balloon? After the local Army Air Corps managed debacle, Project Blue Book and its predecessors were instituted by the newly created Air Force to make sure things didn't go out of control again. The bureaucracy which claims an issue controls that issue. The defense and intelligence communities are the least transparent of any governmental-based structures with numerous mechanisms designed to hide or deceive. That is completely understandable. Guess who controls the shell game? After the most recent revelations around the Navy videos, a task force named the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force was established. The Department of Navy, under the cognizance of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, will lead the task force. The press release on its creation states the Department of Defense established it to improve its understanding of and to gain insight into the nature and origins of UAPs. The mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to the U.S. national security. It further states the Department of Defense and the military departments take any incursions by unauthorized aircraft into their training ranges or designated airspace very seriously and examine each report. The media coverage from the Navy videos and promotion of the To the Stars Academy has resulted in the need once again to have the government indicate it is addressing the issue while never intending to share any knowledge with the public. But by far, most UAPs actually fall outside of what the Department of Defense's claimed areas of interest are and are experienced by civilians in civilian areas. They might be natural atmospheric phenomena, which the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of the Department of Commerce would have a responsibility. They might be natural or man-made, which might affect civilian aviation, and the Federal Aviation Administration of the Department of Transportation would have jurisdiction. But if something doesn't rise to the point of causing an accident or impairing the efficient flow of air traffic, the FAA won't expend resources on it. A transparent civilian agency could be created jointly under the Federal Aviation Administration and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to explore the UAPs. If the civilian Operation Blue Book stumbles over space aliens, well, the military can do its thing and the civilian atmospheric science and aviation authorities can do their thing. But this time the military won't have exclusive control. Many of those into conspiracies will declare the powers that be would never allow a substantial effort investigating the issue be conducted outside of the intelligence and defense community. If that is true, then won't it be interesting to bring up the concept of a civilian investigation and see who comes out of the woodwork to stop it? This would be handled by legislators and staffs not on the defense and intelligence committees. Wouldn't the public want the UAP issue handled by civilians with transparency? Just asking that question upends the basic assumptions we have operated under since World War II. We have been able to watch the spectacle of the Trump administration fighting with components of the deep state intelligence services and FBI. This struggle not only makes the population more willing to accept the need to open up the process, but also weakens the grip of the deep state. There would have to be mechanisms to avoid co-option of the staff, however. One of the greatest threats to any conspiracy is the number of people involved. The number of institutions and people involved tend to make conspiracies unviable. A transparent civilian agency under two departments with the usual UAP, UFO, non-governmental commentators, bloggers, and authors analyzing their activities with non-defense oversight committees is too many people involved. As a Republican, I know there would be a fear of wasting of taxpayers' money, and I would like to propose a mechanism to address this. No money needs to come from taxpayers or the deficit. Internal Revenue tax returns have a checkoff to indicate whether or not filers want to give $3 to the Presidential Election Campaign Fund. Although the forms state checking off a box does not add to the taxpayer's bottom line, the money has to come from somewhere, so other taxpayers in the deficit cover it. There were 143.3 million taxpayers in 2017, of which 6% chose to supply politicians' campaigns with money generating around 26 million in that tax year. Tax filers could be asked to voluntarily contribute $3 to the Civilian Project Blue Book, which would go on their bottom line. What percentage of tax filers would be willing to fund something that interesting at only $3? Imagine just having that checkoff on the annual tax return to focus attention. The argument can be made that even if it doesn't lead to space aliens, a lot of good science is likely to be accomplished, so no money will be wasted. It isn't a coincidence that black budget projects are tested in the same areas where DoD's new task force is in charge of investigating. While some of the military officers are in the know about particular tests, there is now a place for others to pass on sightings. Crash retrievals of terrestrial military technology goes to the DoD. Crash retrievals of civilian aircraft go to the FAA. And anything alleged to be alien technology is recovered by the Civilian Project Blue Book and goes to the Smithsonian for public study. The DoD can investigate the anomalies as possible threats, while the civilians can investigate them to find out what they are. Citizens are free to call whomever they want. If someone is actually attacked by space aliens, the DoD is always a phone call away. Civilian Project Blue Book is not designed to displace private groups, authors, or blog commentators. Someone will have to critique and analyze what the civilians and the government are doing, and the civilians will carry out many of the first-line activities as was historically done in the Ground Observer Corps. This time, nonfiction Mulder and Scully will have regular citizens looking over their shoulders. Further, having an entity in part operated by the FAA will reduce the stigma of reporting anomalies by pilots and give a place for the reports to go. Instead of begging for morsels of information which can't be verified from those who may or may not be true insiders, why not force the question? UFO, UAP researchers have made great use of the Freedom of Information Act. What they need is an additional tool. All that can happen is the powers that be say no, but then you have made your points in front of the population.